Welcome to Football Brownie. I hope you're well, keeping safe, keeping each other safe, and spreading a love during this pandemic. Because, Stephen, we all need a little bit of loving, my friend. We all need a little bit of loving.
No, you're telling me, mate.
Before we go any further, check the ticker bar at the bottom there. Please like, share, subscribe. Football Brownie. We're not far off 720 now, so fingers crossed this program will get us off that. Hit the target at 720. Okay, we welcome Stephen back. Now, before I go any further, Stephen, I apologise wholeheartedly. I spelled your name wrong incorrectly on the advert. I will do it. I will change it.
No, it's not a problem, mate. It's probably because my Twitter handle is at Steve Kountourou, so you probably think, Steve must be spelled with a V, but because it's spelled spelled the Greek way, which is PH.
Okay, no, it's fair enough.
But loads of people refer to me as Steve, so for my Twitter handle, it sounded better.
No problem. Well, welcome to Football with we're the football show. I forgot what we're doing then. We're the football show. And today we're going to be looking at one of the most intriguing small nations within Europe. And that is the wonderful island of Cyprus. It's I think looking at it, Stephen, looking at it, I think the nation of Cyprus, the footballing nation of Cyprus, can actually give some hope to the newer nations which have now come in these days. The likes of Gibraltar, which is not far from me. The Faroe Islands, I suppose, relatively new. But the newer countries, if it can look at Cyprus and say, okay, well, if we can follow them and how they are progressing over the years, I don't think that's a bad way to go.
Well, to start with, that's a very optimistic of you. I mean, look. Early doors. Cyprus has as a nation overall, has a good history of football. This Greek Cypriots, especially. Football crazy people, honestly. Some of them, you'll get so many little football teams in. If you go to a village in the UK, there's maybe one football team. If you're lucky to get two. I've been to villages where there's numerous football teams, and these are tiny communities, but they just are football mad. Although in terms of a footballing model, I would for a small nation, the first place I'd recommend is actually Iceland, because they've actually qualified for major tournaments in the last 10 years. Whereas sadly, Cyprus are yet to qualify for the World Cup or the European Championships.
I fully understand, but I the reason I say this is because Greece, they only were an official member of UEFA until very recently. I mean, the first official game, was 1949. But the first official game, it took them a while to get recognised by UEFA and FIFA as a member nation. And that was 1960.
Well, that's significant because up until then, for 100 years previous to 1960, Cyprus had been owned by Britain as part of the British Empire.
That's right.
So they weren't able to get themselves, I imagine they wouldn't be able to get themselves an official UEFA or FIFA license back then because they weren't independent. And then 1960 rolls around, that's the Declaration of Independence. Cyprus becomes its own country for the first time in hundreds of years, literally hundreds of years, because before that, the Ottomans owned Cyprus. It was a big thing for Cyprus, and that's why if you go onto Wikipedia, it will show them playing Israel once in 1949 and losing 3-1, and then drawing 1-1 in 1960 is their first official game.
Yeah, it just shows how different the rules with UEFA and FIFA membership has now, because Gibraltar is still still not governed by Britain, but still very strong links to Britain. Yet they have membership, but yet it took Cyprus quite a while to get their membership.
Yeah, I mean, even then, there's a massive British link still with Cyprus, even outside of football, education-wise, government, how the government is run. It's very British in its style of doing things. A lot of people in Cyprus speak English. I think last time I checked, nearly 90% of the island speak English. Of the Greek Cypriot population. They've got RAF bases. They've got in Tigelia and Akrotiri. There's still RAF bases there.
I'm glad you pronounced that and not me, because I
whenever we go to Cyprus, we normally stay near Tigelia, which is in Larnaca, like in the Larnaca district, and we normally stay just around the Larnaca district because Larnaca is a beautiful town, and we normally stay in one of the neighboring villages there. It's there. I can't. I mean, I'm biased because my family from Cyprus, but I love Cyprus so much. It's a beautiful country.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat. Randy's in here. Hi, Randy. Hope you're well. Cheddar's Cypriot. We've gone downhill. Okay. The reason I say that, Cheddar's, is because as a Welsh fan, I always found if we drew Cyprus, it was quite often really. When we drew Cyprus, I never treated it. I always treated it as potential banana skin.
We beat you guys.
Yeah, in 2008
in Nicosia. Yeah.
And we were actually, when Wales qualified for the France 2016 Euro 2016, we were actually in our group as well.
Yeah.
And they can upset. I mean, the first game of that group, we actually beat Bosnia away.
I know, we beat them. A fantastic result like that. And obviously Bosnia just come off the back of qualifying for the World Cup, and so like this was like their golden age, Bosnia, to a certain extent. And Cyprus just we're a bit of a bogey team for Bosnia in recent times. We've beaten them on numerous occasions in the last few years. And we've done that against teams before. You know, we beat Spain 3-2 in the Euro 2000 qualifiers. We beat, I think we drew with Germany. We drew with Portugal 4-4 in 2009. We beat Republic of Ireland 5-2, which was like an embarrassing result for them. So that's nice to have. And look, like this isn't me saying that Cyprus are a great team. Like Cyprus, for me, have always been that sort of like, they're okay. Like they're good for an island nation, and on occasion they can cause an upset. But the problem with Cyprus is they never have the consistency to qualify for a major tournament. And they lack the quality. They've always lacked the quality in the modern era to really compete and consistently make it to even to the playoffs. We've never even made it to the playoffs of a qualifier, and that's something that needs to change. Like even if we just made the playoffs and lost, that's still progression over what we've seen recently. But with what I've seen over the first three games of these qualifiers, I'm quietly hopeful. We looked pretty decent under the newest manager, Nikos Kosteinoglou. He's a decent Greek manager. So we'll see what happens with Cyprus.
The World Cup started off 0-0 against Slovakia. You know, they're no mugs.
We were unlucky not to win that game. Actually, their goalkeeper, I think it's Dubravka, I believe, their goalkeeper from Newcastle. Absolutely brilliant play, brilliant game for him. We should have scored towards the end of the game, so unlucky to draw that one.
You know, we went to Croatia and only lost 1-0. I mean, you know.
And we played well again. We played well. And what was highlighted over this game is these three games is that Cyprus changed up what they were trying to do with the new manager and with their style of play. They sort of tried very much more of a counter-attacking sort of format, similar to, I guess, it's more like a 3-5-2. What we were seeing, and so just soaking up pressure and then just straight away on the counter. And it looked good. Like it doesn't have to be functional passing, because that's what they were trying to do under the previous manager, Joe Wallum. Former under-21s Belgian manager they brought in, and there was such an expectation, like, oh, he's going to develop the youth, he's going to make Cyprus play attractive football, we're going to play possession football, and we were dreadful. We were really bad. The team looked bereft of ideas. There was no plan B. There was no end product. We lost to Luxembourg, and I know Republic of Ireland lost to Luxembourg recently, but it was embarrassing to lose to them. away from home.
Yeah.
And I know people are like, oh yeah, but they've got some decent players. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still Luxembourg. Like Cyprus, who have pound for pound, in my opinion, a better team, should really be beating a team like that. So the project didn't work. We got rid of him, and we're playing a much better style. And the team look like they know what they're doing, and it's so much more passion. And then we beat Slovenia, who are a decent team, and they've got Jan Oblak in goal, who's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. So it's 4 points from a possible 6 is not bad. It's for Cyprus, it's decent, return. And it's a tough group as well.
It seems to me, I know that they beat Bosnia on their travels, but that could be said. It could be said for everybody, but it's at home, which they seem to really get up for. Must be because of the home fans and so on, and let's be honest, the temperature as well. And the heat, because I remember Wales players struggling in that away qualifier. We only won 1-0 last 8 minutes.
Yeah.
But players can struggle no matter how skillful they are. But if they can't adapt to the heat and the humidity, they will struggle. And
it's hot. It's so hot, especially in the capital. In Nicosia, it can get honestly. It's a good 5 degrees hotter than anywhere around the coast. It's absolutely baking, but it's quite an open stadium as well, the GSP. I think it only has a capacity of 19,000 strong, and you say that about home fans. The sad thing is with Cyprus is the home fans don't really care, and that's because Cyprus don't qualify for anything. So you have a lot of Greek Cypriots like me who have supported Greece because Greece were qualifying for stuff consistently, and there's that Greek root, that Greek connection between Greek Cyprus and Greece, without getting too political about it. Come on to a point for here. Yeah, and exactly. And the biggest problem with Cyprus, as is with Greece, is the politics. The politics is all wrong. It's all about we have to get players in now. They have to be good now. They have to do everything now, rather than nurturing and progressing for the future. And unfortunately, Cyprus as a country is it's I guess a little bit progressive. It's not like any of the Scandinavian countries, which are super ultra progressive. But just in terms of football, Cyprus has never been about building for the future, nurturing the young talent. It's always been about, let's just get this Spaniard in, or this Portuguese or this Brazilian guy in on a 2-year contract and pay him big money, and we won't play the youth. And that is the biggest problem with the club football, certainly. I can go back to Wales regarding this. Very, very similar. John Toshack come in, and he come in with progression. Progressive kind of mindset. During that time, we had Premier League players, but the likes of Robbie Savage and all that, they were lower level Premier League players at best. So what Toshack done, to the detriment, it was outcry in Wales. It really was outcry, especially when you had the likes of Robbie Savage going on national radio stations and slagging him off. He's now and returning my phone calls, blah 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 blah. But what Toshack did do, the results weren't there because there's only so much any manager can do if the results weren't turning around. But what he did do, he introduced Gareth Bale to international football. When he was at Southampton, played left back in Southampton, may I say. He introduced the likes of Aaron Ramsey, Joe Allen, and these were very, very young players, 16, 17, 18, and international football is not like club football. You can't transfer players in and out from one country to another. Unless you neutralise foreign players who've lived in the country for long enough, Exactly. And Cyprus have done their fair share of that as well. Cyprus have done their fair share of that.
And Spain has.
Yeah.
And Spain has. Pushkash is definitely one of them. But
oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, for the older type of... Sorry guys. For the kind of weaker nations, and I will include Wales in a weaker nation, it has to be progressive if you want any success in the future. But a lot of fans just won't accept it until the results start going in the right direction. Then guys took over, still carried on that mantle because those players were then gaining experience both with club and country. And then, after, we all know what happened to Guy's speed, but then Chris Coleman took over, and it was with those players which got us to our first tournament. First qualifying tournament since 1958. That is the way to go. But Wales, such as Scotland's paid like 30 votes and all that to change it, and it doesn't do it. It's just short-termism. And smaller nations in international standard, that's not the way you need to look at it.
Yeah, and like I said, with the previous project, they were trying to start implementing that, but the biggest problem was they were getting rid of the experienced players that could still play for the national team, and so there was no leadership on the pitch. Whereas now they've kind of started to not bring all the old boys back, but they've brought a couple back, and that they've kind of been the influence in the dressing room. And
Fletcher's coming back. He says, because I've read about this. So
there's that too. There's that for club football.
Yeah, this seems to be a thing for all seven Mediterranean type of seven Mediterranean nations, really. You can go. I know with Portugal, definitely Spain. We go Italy. We all know with Italy, Cyprus, Greece, Turkey. Unfortunately, political parties do kind of associate with themselves with certain clubs, and even in Britain, Rangers, Celtic, blah blah blah.
Yeah, of course.
We all know with Northern Ireland and so on. So Britain's no. But yeah, it definitely is a touchy subject. It seems to be in Cyprus as well.
Yeah, and that's the problem. The politics always comes back in, and there's talks of corruption as well, which doesn't always help. Referees getting. I think there was one like a referee made a poor decision. I think his car got bombed or something. It's just, like in a few years back. It's bad. There's all the thing about Abuel because they're so dominant. They were so dominant in the league over the last few years. There's always talk about them fixing matches and they're like fixing matches in the lower leagues. It's really bad. It's just probably just as bad as like the stuff you hear from Greek football in Greece. It's stuff that needs to get kicked out of the game. And I mean, considering all of that considered, Cyprus's league is 15th in the UEFA coefficient, which is a really like good like position for an island nation. This is an island nation with less than 1 million people. Yeah. And for the Cypriot league to be 15th is a big achievement, and that's because Cypriot clubs as of late were doing okay in Europe. They weren't getting to like the quarterfinals, semi-finals, but they were getting a lot of teams to like the round of 16 or the round of 32. Or just winning games, and it did stuff for them.
We'll go on to that because, you are right regarding the possible, the rumours about corruption. Probably doesn't help when there's so many, and Cheddars knows this as well, so many betting companies based in Cyprus. But that's another thing.
Oh yes, I know. There's a lot of betting. They love to bet. There's
because they move at the moment. They move in some of the bases of like I think William Hill and Ladbrokes and so on from Gibraltar over to Cyprus now because of the tax implications as well.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of taxes you can dodge in Cyprus if you know how. But
I've not in Cyprus many a time. Don't worry about that. But yeah, we're going to the club kind of situation. As you mentioned, Upwell by far the biggest team on Cyprus. Can you explain to me, because I still can't understand it. I know Scotland have gone the same way, but this top league in Cyprus, when it splits, right? Now, it splits in two. Then it's very much like so. I think it goes from 1 to 6 split, and then 7 to 12. Right?
Yes.
They will only play each other. Is that correct?
So yeah, so it's like with Greece, it's like with Belgium, and it's like with I think Switzerland. Do Switzerland do it? No, Switzerland do have their Swiss model. But yeah, so what happens is the top half of the table will split after the midpoint of the season, and they all duke it out for European places and the league, etc. Depending on how close it's been. It was fairly close this season actually. Although Omonia won the league for the first time, I think must have been 11 years or something. It was a long time. Yeah. So congratulations to them. And then the bottom half duke it out to not get relegated or just to be too good to get relegated and they can't go for Europe now because the league split. So they just kind of stay at the top. And interestingly, this season, Apoel are in the bottom bracket because they had a terrible regular season. This is the worst Apoel season I think I've seen in my lifetime. And Apoel, it was coming though, because the problem with the Cypriot League for the last few years was Apoel were a bit mediocre, but then the other teams behind them were not quite good enough to rally and try and make for a title chase. So Apoel would comfortably win the league every season. It started to catch up with them. And then last season, the pandemic happened. Apoel wouldn't have won the league anyway because they were in third place, but the league got cancelled. So no one technically won the title. Yeah. And this season it's come back to bite them. And it's disappointing to see from a team that 10 years ago next year got to the Champions League quarterfinals as a Cypriot club.
I know. That's incredible.
But they didn't invest that money correctly. They didn't invest that money into any facilities, into Cypriot football, into their youth or anything. The money went, they didn't manage it wisely for their future. It was all about the here and now again.
It could have went into Mick McCarthy's side pocket.
Oh my goodness! And yeah, Mick McCarthy came for a 3-month holiday. Honestly,
it was after that. It was after his experience in Cyprus. I was like, oh no, not Mick McCarthy. But I don't know why. I don't know. Would it have been the style of football, you think? It would have been completely different, maybe?
I guess it was the culture, perhaps. I mean, it's just a weird one. I think the team were in a bit of a downturn anyway. And they saw him as the guy to take over and maybe push them back to trying to retain the title or at least stay in the top 6. And it didn't happen. And, Mick McCarthy's not a bad manager, but it was just a bit of a poison chalice, I guess, Apoel at the time. And they'll come back strong next season, I imagine.
Well, Jared says Apoel has gone further down than Arsenal in the Champions League.
That is technically true. Yeah, that's technically true. That is true. Further than Olympiacos as well. Olympiacos haven't reached their quarterfinals this century, so that's an achievement as well.
Yeah. No, I remember them in the latter stages of the Champions League, and it's incredible,
amazing.
Teddy said they gave Armenia the title last year.
Technically, it didn't count as a league title for them. They got the Champions League qualifiers, but they weren't handed the title. From what I remember, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I misread, but as far as I'm aware, the champions weren't. There was no champion last season, but I could be wrong. Maybe Omonia count it, but as far as I'm aware, it's not counted. They just finished top.
No way.
And
James,
they got Europe.
Do you follow a Cypriot team? And whereabouts in Cyprus would you go? Because I know you're in England at the moment because of COVID, but let me know. So, I mean, do you ever think that it'll be cleaned up the kind of like the rumours, or is it just? It's horrible to say, but I can see it here. I can see it here over your times. Basically, is it in the culture? A
little bit.
Yeah.
Honestly, a little bit. That doesn't help, but it's going to be hard. It's not easy to clean up a league like Cyprus that also has the reputation as well. Like, I know like a lot of leagues around that region of Europe have the bad reputation. Like, Bulgaria is hugely corrupt. Greece has that reputation. Romania, us in Cyprus. It's just something that, because, obviously there's corruption in all football. I mean, look at what happened with the European Super League. That was corruption.
Oh yeah.
But people don't see it as that way. It kind of, the word corruption get brought in that kind of circumstance, because you're talking about elite football, and elite football can't be corrupt. That's impossible because there's so much money. And I'm like, yeah, but that's exactly why it's corrupt, because there's so much money involved. And there's money. There's a lot of money. Well, not a lot of money compared to that, but there's money involved in Cypriot football, obviously. So that's where it can be quite corrupt as well, with the betting. And like I said, match fixing in lower league.
Yeah. Cheddar's comes back and says,
Apollon.
Limassol. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm from Troodos.
He's from Troodos.
The mountain range, yeah.
Okay. No
amazing. Apollon are a big team. They're one of the big teams in Cyprus. Yeah.
I remember, I don't know why, some random factor. I remember in the 1980s, you'd play a computer game, a football computer game, and either this team, Limassol, or Apoel, they would be the two teams in which would be coming from Cyprus on a computer game. Random. But going forward on the national team, do you think they can? Do you think they can achieve that playoff dream? I suppose.
Well, it's even harder now, because I remember before the Nations League, it was second place, one playoff in 2 legs, and you're through. Whereas now it's semi-finals, final, and then you're through. So can Cyprus? So firstly, Cyprus need to reach it. With this group that they're in, it's a tough one, because you've got Croatia, Slovenia, Slovakia, I think Russia in there as well, if I'm not mistaken. I think I'm wrong. I don't think Russia's in there. It's basically like a lot of teams that are very similar level, and then there's Cyprus. And I think it's a big ask for Cyprus to qualify from this competition. But I'd love it. I would love it if we, yeah.
No, I'm just wondering, because I am a great believer that winning can be addictive, right? Winning games can be addictive to teams. Now, I do watch Gibraltar every now and then. Well, before COVID, I did. I'm just wondering. Now, Cheddar says, does the nation here? This is where I'm coming from, really, Cheddar.
Yeah, I mean, in the Nations League proper,
do you think
yes.
it would have like a pre? Yeah. Do you think you'd have a pre-qualifying? Would that be better to have a pre-qualifying, so that you get addicted to winning when you play in similar level teams? Then you go into the winners of those type of pre-qualifying groups. Then would that be beneficial to Cyprus, or if Cyprus passed that mark now because they are turning over places?
I think we're part. I think for Cyprus, it's not really like a similar situation with Gibraltar, San Marino, Liechtenstein. Like, I know, no disrespect to those nations, but no. Cyprus aren't like that. Like, Cyprus are on the level above, where Cyprus will beat those teams, because they actually have professional footballers. But then there's the level up where you're getting to like the top 80, the top 50 even teams, the way you're like, okay, we can beat this team, but it's not a guarantee. So it's kind of like a middle ground almost. I don't think Cyprus should go into pre-qualifiers, but certainly there should be something. And like Cheddar said, the Nations League is somewhere where Cyprus can compete, especially depending on what league they're put in, division they're put in. They can maybe put on a run of consistent form and win, and then maybe enter the playoffs that way. But in terms of qualifiers proper to a major tournament, it's going to be difficult. The Nations League is where they're going to do it, if anywhere.
Yeah, will be right. No problem at all. Well, should we leave it there? Stephen? Thank you ever so much for tonight. I do apologize. I know it was 2 days later. 2 days delayed.
No, it's not a problem. No problem.
Work, elsewhere what was the reason, and I apologize for that. You're an Arsenal fan. Cheddar says Arsenal just gone 1-0 up. There you go.
Fair play.
That's a push, smile on your face. And John, evening lads. Guys, I will be doing a late night question and answer later on. And enjoy the game. Stephen, absolutely thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Saying no is not in your vocabulary, I tell you.
No, I
So,
struggle to say no to people,
thank you
especially
ever
when
so
it's
much
people
for
I enjoy
joining
working
me.
with.
Bloody hell. Why can't Mrs. Putin say nice things like that to me rather than you bastard or other things like that? But never mind, that's another thing. Anyway, thank you very much, Steve. Much appreciated. Where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on Twitter with the Twitter handle at Steve Kountourou. It's the same on Instagram. You can also find my blogs on Hellas Football and on Gate 7 INTL. Hellas Football's Twitter handle is at Hellas Footy, and Gate 7 International is at Gate 7 INTL. I do a mixture of Greek football blogs, mainly Olympiakos, because they're my team and I love Olympiakos. They've just won the 46th league title and they're celebrating right now. Just thought I'd mention that.
Oh, congratulations! Congratulations.
Yeah, and also for Hellas Football, I occasionally do some blogs about Cypriot football, whether it be club football or international football. I'm also wearing the latest national team jersey as well, which is very, very nice. And that's where you can find me blogging, and also we have a podcast as well for Hellas Football that you can find on Instagram. No, not Instagram. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and I think also Anchor as well. That's where you can find me.
I'll put it all in the description as well.
Yeah.
And guys, I spoke to Steve regarding the Greek football nation as well. That was 2-3 weeks ago. So if you haven't watched that,
it was.
Go back into the videos and watch that. And until next time, Stephen, thank you ever so much.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Take care.